So we want to continue with the basics of realist theory. And we've said already that realists see the world as an anarchic world, meaning there's no central government in the world, and therefore there's no one to provide for the security of states other than states themselves. Right? This idea that it's a self-help world. So the question is, how do states behave in this self-help world, and what are the consequences of that? Well, if it's a self-help world, then if you want to be secure, you have to arm. So states arm. When states arm, the question then is, how do their neighbors respond? And if you want to be secure and you see your neighbor arming, well, what do you have to do? Well, you have to arm too, maybe even more than they do, depending on how afraid you are of them. So when you see your neighbor arming, because you've armed, what then do you have to do if you want to be as secure as you were before? Well, then you need to arm even more. And then they have to respond, and so on. And so you hear this term spiral model, or you hear the term arms race. And so the big problem is that while states feel the necessity to arm themselves in order to protect their security, that itself leads to consequences such that arming ultimately doesn't really solve the problem. So the question is, are you safer if you arm, which can lead to an arms race, which is very expensive and makes war very destructive, or are you safer if you don't arm and you leave yourself then potentially vulnerable to those who do? That, in realist theory, is the security dilemma. And the real heart of the dilemma is that you really can't guarantee your security either way. All right? And this is the key point. Are you safer if you arm or if you don't? Well, that's the dilemma. And either way, security is elusive. So to summarize the whole logic of realism here, anarchy leads to self-help. Self-help leads states to arm. Arming leads to arms races. So states are insecure either way. Right? Security is very scarce in this world. Can states agree? Can they reach some agreement to say, look, you don't get arms and I won't get arms? We're going to come back to that idea, but the realists generally are going to say no. Because if you decide not to arm and the other side cheats on the agreement, they can then wipe you out, right? You're potentially doomed. And so even if states maybe want to reach agreements, the realists are going to say they can't risk their security on that. So the key points, right? Security is scarce. You can never have enough. The only way to be truly secure in the realist world is to be militarily dominant. Follows from that, really, that there's only one country at any given time, at the most, right, that can really be secure. Or more likely, nobody's militarily dominant and everybody's insecure. So to ask a question that we've asked in different ways before, to what extent do you agree with the framing of this problem? And I'll stress, realism doesn't claim to be a detailed, accurate description of the world, rather a simplified abstraction of the key aspects of international politics. And so the question is, do you think this captures what's going on or not?